If a bill is going to a different committee, like education or state veterans and military affair, I might not read that bill because there's, a chance it won't even get out of that committee and I'll never have to vote on it. And so then I won't know about a bill until it's going to come up for a second in the Senate. So it depends, but if there's she just asked me about this one bill here, that Senate bill, and I don't know where it's at and I don't know how it's doing and I'm not sure what it's meant to do, but because she asked, I'll look into it and I'll ask questions and I can get back to her with an opinion on what it is and what I think about it. So if there's ever anything out there that's really important to you, please write to me about it and tell me what, in what way it's important or what your concern might be, because sometimes people spot something that the legislature doesn't. And they might say, I know the intent is good, but if you do this, this is what will happen. We call it unintended consequences. And so if you tell me that, even if the bill isn't coming to my committee, I can talk to my colleagues about your concern and help them evaluate that in committee, or help you and I understand how that's not going to be a problem, or else fix the bill if we need to.
I guess my question is more like how, once a bill gets to where it's going to be voted on and we want to know how you're going to vote, can we call your office to find out? Is it quicker, easier actually for us to just email you?
You can do either.
Yeah, I think, you can do either, because Susan tracks me down
Okay.
and makes me make a decision. And the reason I say that makes me make a decision is because really when we do second reading on the floor is when the bill presenter presents why they think you should vote for the bill.
Okay.
So really, before I get that, unless somebody has given me an information or fact sheet about it, I might not necessarily know. And I will say this often because people will come up to you and say, are you going to support my bill? And I'll say, what does it do, blah, blah, blah. I'll say, well, based on what you told me, I lean favorably toward it, but I really need to read it before I can tell you for sure.
And you usually have enough time once they've actually said we're going to vote on this? You feel like you have
Yeah,
enough time?
they have to announce it at least 24 hours in advance that you're going to vote on something. Now there is something, and I don't think I brought in my Senate calendar, but there are these bills that go onto something called the consent calendar. And what consent calendar means is that everybody in the committee voted yes for it and thinks that it's a no-brainer. And so consent calendar for the most part means, like my bill on attendance and guardianship, that went on consent calendar and never got debated. So unless it's a topic that interests you, you might not know or read or understand that bill. But any bill on which there's going to be discussion or debate, you'll get to sit there and listen to the proponent and the opponents. And the ones that I think are most interesting are when you have them on both sides in both directions. Because that means it's just not so clear. Unfortunately, a lot of things it seems like goes one way or the other. But my Good Samaritan bill today had 2 Republicans stand up and testify in favor of my bill, and 1 Republican stand up and testify against my bill.
What is it?
So my 911 Good Samaritan bill is, I don't know if you know this, but actually prescription drugs account for more overdoses in Colorado, more deaths in Colorado than motor vehicle accidents now. Because drugs are just so common in our population, and kids have this new thing they're doing called farm parties, and it's PHARM, like pharmaceutical, not animal farm, where they'll all bring in like what pills they find and try each other's pills and stuff. And so what we're trying to do is, what's happened is if somebody starts to act wacky or strange, people will take them home and put them to bed instead of calling for help, mostly because they're worried they're going to get in trouble. And so what my bill says is if you call 911 because somebody is in trouble, you won't be charged for using or possessing drugs when they come in to give you help. Now if you're a distributor, you'll still be charged. If you're a pusher, you'll still be charged, but just for using and possessing, you won't be charged. The thought being that if people know that, and it turns out that's what police usually do, they just take care of it medically and they don't end up charging people unless there's obvious distribution going on in the place. But until people know that, often they're afraid to call and ask for help. And interesting, one of the most compelling testifiers there was the dean of students from the University of Colorado. And she said that when they did the law around minors in possession of alcohol, they had a lot more people calling the RA to report people using too much alcohol and getting help early than they did before that law was passed. And so they were really hopeful that they'd be able to get that same knowledge out there because they're aware that these pharmaceutical parties are happening for college kids around drug possession.
I'm a little bit of a junkie, and I go down to the Capitol to hear these committees. And it's interesting, the testifiers are the ones that usually the senators and representatives bring in. But anybody who's passionate about a bill that they've seen should get in touch with the sponsor and tell them, because they testify. It's still the decision by the electeds, but it's very important that you get experts and you get anecdotal information from people like us here. And it's really important to be part of it because it's amazing how things can change when you get a passionate anecdotal story or some statistics that maybe weren't brought out. So it's like everything else, just like voting. It's up to us to be there, or your voice isn't heard.
You know what's fun is that sometimes people will come like for a specific bill they're interested in, but we usually hear 2 or 3 or 4 bills, and you don't know, like if you're not first, you're there all afternoon, sometimes into the evening. And people will be there for something else, and they're like, I didn't kind of testify about this, but they came up and, and tell their story and how they see that bill relating to them, and that's always fun to see. I think today we had a bill in committee in Business, Labor, and Technology around roofing, and there was this guy who had come and he really did not plan to testify, and he ended up just feeling compelled, and he was a roofer, so I'm glad that he did. But he was sort of embarrassed that he didn't know what he would say, but after listening to everybody, it sort of helped him synthesize his thoughts and figure out what it was he wanted to express to us. So, and I tell you, when we get, I think when we get everyday people like that, your voice is heard 10 times more than like when she comes in, because everybody sees her all the time. They know what she's going to say. You know what I mean? Versus you come in and say, one time my grandmother got this call that did this, and that's why I'm passionate about this. That carries a lot of weight. Dave?
There's 2 bills that I want to make sure on your radar, and if you had any comments or anything about it. One is Senate Bill 1288. I guess it was introduced by Ted Harvey. It has to do with whether cities and counties can object to certain oil and gas practices of drilling if they feel it's a health concern for their community. And I guess that's going to be a pretty big deal. That's one of them. And the other one was it's House Bill 1279, which is, I think, Representative Lee and Lois Corridor. It's kind of a voluntary, publicly funded campaign fund sort of thing.
And I've heard some about 1288, and I've heard about it, but I've not read it. But you know how I said there are things you can take just by looking at the bill? The fact that it's Senator Harvey has me a little worried, because Ted Harvey represents Douglas County. And, Harvey Grantham Renfro, that's a hat trick. That's a hat trick. Senator Renfro, he's, I've enjoyed all of the Republicans with the exception of Senator Renfro. Seriously, I mean, all of them. It's just we have a different point of view, but they're nice people. We can talk, we can dialogue, we can agree to, even Senator Harvey, I love to disagree with Senator Harvey. In fact, the other day I signed on to one of his bills and I said, I bet I'm going to regret this, because this is the second bill of yours I'm supporting, and actually then I found out why, and in fact I do regret it, and I'm going to have to take my name off. But, but he and I have a lot of fun, even though, again, our viewpoints are diametrically different. He's a libertarian. But Renfro, the reason Renfro drives me nuts is that he's very conservative, but everything that he's conservative about, he couches in religion. And that's, for some reason, that's harder for me. It's okay if you have a different view, but to somehow say that God likes your view and not my view is offensive to me, I guess. And so I have a special bumper sticker for him. I just haven't found the time yet. And it says, Jesus gave free health care. I haven't saved. I'm not sure when he'll earn that from me, but at some point I have it saved for him. So without reading this, I could say with that lineup, I'm probably going to be opposed to it, but I have not read it yet, and I will let you know, Dave, what I think of it.
Well, let it know, and I'm not so much concerned about that if there's anything that people can do to help. Okay. Sometimes it's hard for us to know, you don't want to jump at everything. thing, but every once in a while.
So this would be easy because it's actually, I should know this bill, because it's local government. It must be coming up on Thursday, because I've read all the ones for tomorrow already. You could talk with me, Joyce Foster, and Jeannie Nicholson. We're the three Democratic senators in local government, and express your concern and your feeling on the bill, and that would be helpful. Because, but I've seen this come around, and it's on my wire that I need to watch out for that. Barry?
Just besides the people who are passionate enough to be a lobbyist, there's a group called the Colorado Senior Lobby, and I've been going to their meetings during the session. They meet every Monday, and they pick out bills that pertain to them. And I think it's a great idea, not just for seniors, but the awareness of what's going on, and then they decide whether they want to support it or oppose it or find out more about it. They put a watch on it. But they have a lot of people that go down and talk to the senators to find out where it's at, and it's just a good idea. And this year, the group last year had anywhere from 10 to 15 people every Monday morning. This year, there's between 18 and 30, so there's a lot higher level. And occasionally they get a senator to come down and talk, because Monday, I think the session doesn't start till 10.
Right.
So we meet early if we get a senator to come down at 8:30 or 9. So that's kind of fun, and it helps people get aware of things. I don't have a good memory, so I like getting these things, because, oh yeah, I remember.
Now, is it is there an age at which you have to be
No, we have a lot of
participate?
younger people who are professional that come as well. But
So
the
just
bulk-
if you're
there is
interested in
no age.
senior issues.
Exactly.
And there's the women's lobby for those interested in women's issues, or
There you
issues
go.
that will affect women.
And by the way, this group is about 50-50 men and women.
Oh, wow.
Cool.
There are that many old men alive still?
That's
That
probably a
is
good woman
fancy.
cooking for you. Me too, because I do the cooking.